You know that feeling when your entire world collapses in a single second? When everything you believed in, every memory you cherished, every promise you held close to your heart, just crumbles into dust. I'm Claudia, and I'm about to tell you the story of how I discovered that my entire marriage was a lie. It was a Tuesday evening, October 15th. I remember the date because it was supposed to be our anniversary dinner. 12 years of marriage. 12 years of what I thought was love, partnership, and loyalty. I was standing in our bedroom, holding my husband Daniel's phone in my trembling hands. The screen was still glowing, and on it was a text message that would change everything. "Dad, when are you coming home? Mom says dinner is getting cold. Sophie won't stop crying for you. Dad, Mom, Sophie." My husband had another family. My legs gave out beneath me. I collapsed onto the edge of our bed, the same bed where we'd made love just 3 nights ago, where he'd whispered that I was his everything, where he'd held me and promised me forever. The phone slipped from my fingers and bounced on the carpet. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. My chest felt like it was wrapped in iron chains, tightening, crushing, suffocating. The room spun around me. Our wedding photo on the dresser seemed to mock me now. His smile in that picture. Was it ever real? I picked up the phone again with shaking hands. My fingers moved on their own, scrolling through his messages. There were dozens, hundreds maybe. "Love you, babe. Can't wait to see you this weekend. The kids miss you so much. I told them Daddy's away on business again." Kids, plural. There were photos. A woman with long, dark hair and kind eyes, holding a baby. 2 young boys playing soccer in a backyard I'd never seen. A little girl, maybe 4 years old, sitting on Daniel's lap, her arms wrapped around his neck. She had his eyes, the same deep brown eyes that had looked into mine on our wedding day and promised forever. I scrolled further back. The messages went on for years, 5 years, maybe more. While I was planning our anniversary dinners, he was celebrating birthdays with them. While I was working double shifts at the hospital to help pay our mortgage, he was buying toys for children I didn't know existed. While I was lying awake at night, worrying about why we couldn't conceive, why every pregnancy test came back negative, why every fertility treatment failed. He already had 3 children with someone else. 3 children. I felt something break inside me, not just my heart. Something deeper. Something I didn't even know could break. It was like the foundation of my soul had cracked wide open. The front door opened downstairs. His voice called out, cheerful and warm. "Claudia, I'm home. Sorry I'm late. Traffic was terrible." Lies. All lies. His footsteps came up the stairs. I could hear him whistling. Actually whistling. Like this was just another normal evening. Like he hadn't just destroyed everything. He appeared in the doorway. His tie loosened. His jacket over his arm. That familiar smile on his face. The smile I'd fallen in love with 15 years ago. "Hey, beautiful. You ready for dinner? I made reservations at that Italian place you love." I looked at him. Really looked at him. This man I'd shared my life with. This man I'd trusted with my heart, my dreams, my future. This stranger. I held up his phone. His smile froze. The color drained from his face. "Claudia, I can explain don't." My voice came out cold, steady. I barely recognized it. "Don't you dare." He took a step toward me, hands raised like he was approaching a wild animal. "It's not what you think. Please, just let me. You have children. The words felt like glass in my throat. You have a whole other family. I can explain everything. Please, just give me a chance to... How long? I stood up, my whole body trembling with rage. How long have you been living this lie? He couldn't meet my eyes. How long, Daniel? 6 years, he whispered. 6 years. I had to grip the dresser to stay standing. 6 years of lies. 6 years of deception. 6 years of him splitting himself between 2 families, 2 lives, 2 versions of reality. I never meant for this to happen, he said, his voice breaking. I love you, Claudia. I've always loved you. It got complicated. Complicated. That word hung in the air between us like poison. Get out, I said quietly. Claudia, please, get out! I screamed it this time, my voice raw and ragged. Get out of this house. Get out of my sight. Get out of my life. He started crying, actual tears rolling down his face, like he was the victim, like he was the one who'd been betrayed. I have nowhere to go, he sobbed. I laughed. It was a horrible, broken sound. You have a whole other family, Daniel. Go to them. Go to your wife and your children, your real family, because clearly I was never enough. That night, I lay alone in our bed, staring at the ceiling, too numb to cry anymore. My mind replayed every moment of our marriage, analyzing each memory, searching for clues I'd missed. How many business trips were lies? How many late nights at the office? How many weekends he said he needed to visit his sick mother in another state? His mother died 7 years ago. Everything was a lie. But here's what Daniel didn't know. Here's what he couldn't have known as he packed his bags and left our house that night, probably heading straight to her, to them. I wasn't just hurt. I wasn't just broken. I was furious, and I was going to make sure he paid for every single lie, every broken promise, every stolen moment of my life. This wasn't the end of my story. This was just the beginning. But before I tell you about my revenge, you need to understand who I was, who Claudia was before that Tuesday night shattered everything. You need to understand what I sacrificed, what I gave up, what I lost. I grew up in a small town in Pennsylvania. My parents were simple, hard-working people. Dad was a mechanic. Mom was a teacher. We didn't have much money, but we had love. We had stability. We had honesty. Those values shaped me. I was the first person in my family to go to college. I worked 3 jobs to pay my tuition. I studied nursing because I wanted to help people. I wanted to make a difference. I wanted to heal. The irony isn't lost on me now. I met Daniel when I was 23. He was 25. I was doing my clinical rotation at the hospital, and he came in with a broken arm from a basketball game. I was the nurse who helped him. He made me laugh, even though he was in pain. He had this energy, this light about him. He said I had the kindest eyes he'd ever seen. We started dating 3 weeks later. He was a financial analyst at a consulting firm. Smart, ambitious. He talked about his dreams of starting his own business someday. I believed in him. I believed in us. We got married 2 years later. It was a small wedding, just family and close friends. I wore my grandmother's dress. Daniel cried when I walked down the aisle. I thought we were building something beautiful. For the first few years, everything felt perfect. We bought our first house together, a little 2-bedroom place with a backyard. I planted roses along the fence. Daniel built me a garden bench. We talked about starting a family. We picked out names. Emma for a girl, James for a boy. But the babies never came. Month after month, I waited. I took the tests. I saw the single line instead of two. I felt that crushing disappointment over and over again. We went to specialists. I endured tests, procedures, treatments. They couldn't find anything specifically wrong with me. Just unexplained infertility, they said. It happens sometimes. Daniel held my hand through it all. Or at least, I thought he did. "We'll keep trying," he'd say. "We have time. It'll happen when it's meant to happen." Looking back now, I wonder if he was relieved. If he was secretly glad our treatments kept failing. Because he already had children. He already had the family he wanted. Just not with me. I threw myself into my work. I became a senior nurse in the cardiac unit. I took extra shifts. I stayed late. I came in early. Work was the one place I felt competent, valued, needed. At home, I felt like a failure. I couldn't give my husband the one thing he wanted most, or so I thought. Turns out, he already had it. He just hadn't bothered to tell me. Our marriage settled into a routine. Daniel traveled a lot for work, or so he said. 3, sometimes 4 days a week, sometimes entire weeks at a time. Big client in Boston, he'd say. Important project in Chicago. Conference in Seattle. I never questioned it. Why would I? I trusted him completely. When he was home, he was attentive, loving. He brought me flowers. He cooked dinner. We watched movies cuddled on the couch. We made love. We talked about our future. Maybe we should look into adoption, I suggested once. He got quiet. "Let's give it a little more time," he said. "I'm not ready to give up on having our own child yet." Our own child. God, the cruelty of those words now. I had a best friend named Rachel. She knew everything about my struggles. She held me when I cried after another failed treatment. She celebrated the small joys with me. "You and Daniel are so perfect together," she'd tell me. "I've never seen a couple more in love." I believed that too. I gave up so much for this marriage. When Daniel's business was struggling in the early years, I paid all our bills. I worked overtime constantly. I postponed my own dreams of going back to school for my master's degree. "Just until I get the business stable," he promised. "Then you can go back to school. Then we'll have more time for us." That time never came. When his mother was sick, I took care of her. I changed her bandages. I managed her medications. I sat with her in the hospital. I held her hand when she died. Daniel wasn't there. He was on a business trip he couldn't cancel. Except, now I know. He wasn't on a business trip. He was with them. He missed his own mother's death because he was playing house with his other family. I planned our anniversary celebrations every year. I picked out thoughtful gifts. I wrote him love letters. I told him constantly how much he meant to me, how grateful I was to have him in my life. He was my everything, and I was just one of his options. I think about the woman I was before that Tuesday. She was hopeful. She believed in love. She believed in loyalty and honesty and the sanctity of marriage vows. She gave everything she had to a man who was giving half of himself to someone else. She worked herself to exhaustion to build a life with someone who was building a completely different life behind her back. She blamed herself for not being enough, when the truth was, he was the one who wasn't enough. Not nearly enough. That woman is gone now. She died the moment I saw that text message. The woman I became after that. She's someone entirely different. Stronger. Harder. Angrier. and absolutely determined to make sure Daniel understood the magnitude of what he'd destroyed. The morning after Daniel left, I woke up on the couch. I'd been too afraid to sleep in our bed. It felt contaminated now, like everything else in this house. Sunlight streamed through the windows. For a brief, cruel moment, I forgot what had happened. Then reality crashed back down, and I felt like I was drowning all over again. Daniel had sent 17 text messages overnight. I hadn't read any of them. I made coffee with shaking hands. The kitchen felt foreign, like I was a guest in someone else's home. Everything looked the same, but nothing felt real anymore. I called in sick to work. I never called in sick. Even when I had the flu last year, I still went in. But today, I couldn't face people. I couldn't pretend to be functional. I sat at the kitchen table with Daniel's phone. He'd left it behind in his rush to leave, or maybe he'd forgotten it in the chaos. Either way, it was a goldmine of truth. I started with the messages. I read everything, every single conversation with her. Her name was Jennifer. Jenny. She worked as a teacher, elementary school. 3rd grade. They'd met at a work conference 6 years ago. Not Daniel's work. She was there with her school district. He was there representing his consulting firm. I never believed in love at first sight, until I met you, one of his messages said. My stomach turned. Their early messages were full of passion, excitement, the thrill of something forbidden and new. I can't stop thinking about you, he wrote. When can I see you again? She replied. Soon. I promise. I'll figure something out. And he did figure it out. He figured out how to build an entire second life. She got pregnant 4 months after they met. I found the messages from that time. His panic, his confession that he was married. I don't know what to do, he wrote. I have a wife, but I can't lose you. I can't lose this baby. Jenny's response surprised me. She didn't immediately end things. She didn't demand he leave me. Instead, she wrote, I know this is complicated, but we can make it work. Lots of families look different these days. We'll figure it out together. Figure it out together. They decided he would split his time. He told me he was traveling for work. He told her he was handling his divorce. Except, he never filed for divorce. He never told me any of this. He just lived 2 completely separate lives. Their first son was born in March, 6 years ago. Daniel told me he was at a week-long conference in California. He was actually at the hospital, holding his newborn son, cutting the umbilical cord, crying tears of joy, while I was home alone, eating frozen dinners and missing him. The second son came 2 years later. Then little Sophie, the baby girl. With each pregnancy, Daniel became more entrenched in both lives. He set up accounts Jenny couldn't access. He rented her a house in another city, 2 hours away, far enough that the chances of anyone he knew seeing them together were minimal. He paid for everything. Her rent, her car, the kids' clothes, food, activities. He sent her money every month. I found the bank statements on his laptop. He'd opened separate accounts I didn't know about, accounts funded by money that should have been ours. Money I thought we were saving for fertility treatments, for our future, for the family we'd never have. He was spending thousands every month on his other family. We had arguments about money. Times when I asked why we couldn't afford things, why we had to be so careful with our budget. The business has been tough lately, he'd say. We just need to be smart with our spending. Meanwhile, he was paying for another woman's entire life. I found photos, Hundreds of them. Birthday parties, Christmas mornings, beach vacations, park picnics, Daniel pushing his sons on swings, Daniel teaching them to ride bikes, Daniel holding baby Sophie, her tiny hand wrapped around his finger. The photos gutted me worse than the messages, because in these photos, he looked happy, genuinely, completely happy, happier than I'd ever seen him with me. I called Rachel. She answered on the second ring. "Claudia, I've been worried sick. Are you okay?" I laughed. It was a bitter, hollow sound. "Daniel has another family." Silence. "What?" "Another wife. 3 kids. He's been living a double life for 6 years. Oh my God. Claudia, I'm coming over right now." She arrived 20 minutes later with coffee, tissues, and wine. She held me while I cried. She listened while I told her everything. "We're calling a lawyer," she said firmly. "Today. Right now. I don't even know where to start. We'll figure it out. But Claudia, you need to protect yourself. Financially, legally, everything." She was right. I knew she was right. But I also knew something else. I didn't just want a divorce. I wanted Daniel to feel every ounce of the pain he'd caused me. I wanted his perfect double life to come crashing down around him. I wanted him to lose everything, just like I had. I wanted revenge. Rachel made calls while I continued digging through Daniel's digital life. She found me a lawyer, a shark of a woman named Patricia Morrison, who specialized in high-conflict divorces. "Don't touch anything," Patricia told me when she arrived that evening. "Don't delete anything. Don't confront anyone. Just document everything." I showed her the messages, the bank statements, the photos. Her expression remained neutral, professional, but I saw something flicker in her eyes. Anger on my behalf. "This is one of the worst cases of marital deception I've seen," she said quietly. "And I've seen a lot. What happens now? Now, we build a case. And Claudia, I promise you, he will pay for this." But I had other plans too. Plans Patricia didn't need to know about yet. Because here's the thing about nurses. We're trained to be patient, to observe carefully, to plan meticulously, to act with precision. Daniel thought he knew me. He thought I was soft, forgiving, that I'd cry and yell and eventually move on. He had no idea who he was dealing with. Over the next few days, I became a detective. I tracked every lie, every trip, every dollar. I found receipts, emails, calendar entries. I built a timeline of his deception. 6 years of lies, all documented. I contacted our bank, our credit card companies, our mortgage lender. I froze our joint accounts. I changed passwords. I documented every shared asset. Daniel kept texting me, begging to talk, swearing he could explain, saying he loved me. I didn't respond. Let him panic. I also did something else. Something I'm not entirely proud of, but something I needed to do. I found Jennifer's address, and one afternoon, while Daniel was presumably with her, I drove to her house. It was a nice place. 3 bedrooms, a fenced yard, a swing set in the back, toys scattered on the porch. My money paid for this, my sacrifices, my extra shifts and missed opportunities. I sat in my car across the street and watched. I saw her come outside with the baby, Sophie. She was beautiful. Chubby cheeks, curly hair, Daniel's smile. My chest ached. This child had done nothing wrong. None of those children had. But their father had. And their mother, well, she'd made her own choices too. I didn't knock on the door. Not yet. But I would. Soon. First, I needed to understand everything. Every piece of the puzzle. because you can't destroy something unless you fully understand how it's built. And I was going to destroy this carefully constructed web of lies completely. The deeper I dug, the worse it got. It wasn't just about the other family. It wasn't just about Jennifer and the kids. It was about how calculated everything had been. How carefully Daniel had constructed his double life. How many people had helped him keep his secrets. I found out from the bank statements that he'd been siphoning money from our joint accounts for years. Small amounts at first. $50 here, $100 there. Nothing I'd notice. Then it grew. Thousands of dollars every month, moved to accounts I'd never known existed. Our retirement fund was half of what it should have been. The savings account we'd set up for our future children, almost empty. He'd stolen from our future to fund his present with them. I discovered that his business partner, Marcus, knew everything. I found emails between them where Daniel joked about juggling 2 lives, and Marcus replied with laughing emojis and advice on how to keep the women from finding out. "You're living the dream, man," Marcus wrote in one email. 2 families. Nobody suspects a thing. The dream. This nightmare was Daniel's dream. I learned that Daniel had told Jennifer different lies than he'd told me. He told her he was divorced, that I was his ex-wife, that we'd had an amicable split. He showed her fake divorce papers. He created an entire false history. She thought she was his real wife, his only wife. In her mind, she wasn't the other woman. She was his partner, his love, the mother of his children. She had no idea I existed as anything other than a past he'd moved on from. That discovery changed something in me. Yes, she'd chosen to be with a man she met at a conference, a man who'd supposedly had a wife. But she thought he'd left that wife. She thought it was over. She didn't know he went home to me every few days, that he slept in my bed, that he told me he loved me, that we were still very much married. We were both his victims. That realization was staggering. I found Daniel's calendar on his laptop. 6 years of careful scheduling, color-coded. Jenny and the kids were in blue. I was in red. His actual work was in green. He'd turned his life into a spreadsheet, allocating time, money, and emotional energy with cold efficiency. Mondays and Tuesdays with me. Wednesdays through Fridays with them. Weekends alternating. Holidays split. Except I never knew I was only getting part-time Daniel. I thought I had a full-time husband. I discovered that he'd used my own money to buy Jennifer's engagement ring. The account he'd pulled from was funded by my overtime shifts. I'd literally paid for him to propose to another woman while still married to me. The cruelty of it was breathtaking. Patricia, my lawyer, was building a devastating case. Fraud, theft, breach of fiduciary duty. The legal terms piled up, but they all meant the same thing. Daniel was going down. He could face criminal charges, Patricia told me. This level of financial deception is serious. Good, I said. My voice had gone cold, hard. I didn't recognize myself anymore. There's something else, Patricia said carefully. I've been doing some research on Jennifer. What about her? She's not wealthy. She teaches elementary school. Her income is modest. The house she's living in, the car she drives, the lifestyle she has. It's all being funded entirely by Daniel. I know. I found the records. If Daniel goes to prison or loses everything in the divorce, she'll lose everything too. Those kids will lose everything. I felt a twist of guilt, quickly followed by anger. That's not my responsibility. That's on Daniel. I know. I'm not saying it is. I just wanted you to understand the full picture. But the full picture kept expanding. I hired a private investigator. His name was Tom, a retired police detective who specialized in marital cases. What he found made my blood run cold. Jennifer wasn't Daniel's first affair. There'd been others, multiple others over the years. Short-term relationships, one-night encounters, affairs that lasted weeks or months. Tom showed me photos, date-stamped and documented. Daniel with a blonde woman at a restaurant in Seattle. Daniel with a redhead at a hotel in Miami. Daniel kissing a brunette in a parking garage. Jennifer is the one who stuck, Tom explained. She got pregnant, so he had to commit. But your husband has a pattern of infidelity going back to before you even got married. Before we were married, our entire relationship had been built on lies. I asked Tom to dig deeper into Daniel's finances. What he found was even more disturbing. Daniel had been embezzling money from his own company, small amounts over years, funneled through fake vendor accounts and inflated expenses. Marcus, his business partner, probably didn't even know. Daniel had been stealing from him too. This is fraud, Tom said. Serious fraud. If his company finds out, he'll be criminally prosecuted. How much has he stolen? Roughly $200,000 over 5 years. $200,000. Money that should have gone to legitimate business expenses. Money that could have been bonuses for employees. Money that was stolen. To fund his affairs. To maintain his double life. To pay for a fantasy while destroying reality. I sat with all of this information, feeling like I was drowning in darkness. Every day brought new revelations. Every discovery was worse than the last. Daniel kept trying to contact me. He showed up at the house when he knew I'd be home from work. He sent emails. He called from different numbers when I blocked his phone. His messages grew increasingly desperate. Claudia, please, we need to talk. I can explain everything. It's not what you think. I love you. I've always loved you. This was all a terrible mistake. Please give me a chance to make this right. Make it right. There was no making this right. There was no fixing 6 years of lies and betrayal. There was no explanation that would justify what he'd done. But I did need to confront him. I needed to look him in the eyes and let him know exactly what was coming. So I sent him one text message. Meet me at Angelo's tomorrow at noon. Come alone. Angelo's was the Italian restaurant where we'd had our first date, where he'd proposed, where we'd celebrated anniversaries. It seemed like the perfect place to end things. He responded immediately, I'll be there. Thank you for giving me this chance. Chance. He thought I was giving him a chance to apologize, to grovel, maybe to beg forgiveness. He had no idea. That night, I barely slept. I lay in bed, our bed, which I'd finally forced myself to sleep in again, and I thought about everything I'd learned. About the woman I'd been. The woman who'd trusted blindly, who'd believed in love and loyalty and the goodness of people. That woman was dead. She died the moment she picked up Daniel's phone and saw the truth. The woman who would meet Daniel tomorrow was someone new, someone harder, someone who understood that sometimes the only way to heal is to burn everything down and start fresh. Sometimes the only justice is revenge. I arrived at Angelo's 15 minutes early. I chose a table in the back, where we'd sat on our first date. The irony wasn't lost on me. The restaurant smelled like garlic and fresh basil. Normally, I loved this smell. Today, it made me nauseous. I ordered water and waited. Daniel arrived exactly at noon. He looked terrible. His suit was wrinkled. His face was drawn. He'd lost weight. Dark circles shadowed his eyes. Good. He spotted me and hurried over. For a moment, he looked like he might try to hug me. I held up one hand, stopping him. Sit down. He sat, his hands trembling slightly. Claudia, thank you for agreeing to meet me. I know you're angry. Angry doesn't begin to cover it. I know, and you have every right to be. What I did was unforgivable. But please, let me explain. Explain what, Daniel? Explain how you accidentally built a whole second family. How you accidentally lied to me for 6 years. How you accidentally stole from our marriage to fund your affair. He flinched at the word stole. It wasn't like that. It's complicated. Stop saying that word. Complicated. Nothing about this is complicated. You're a liar and a cheat. Those are simple facts. His eyes filled with tears. I never meant to hurt you. I laughed. The sound was harsh. You never meant to hurt me. Every single day for 6 years, you made a choice to hurt me. Every lie, every fake business trip, every dollar you stole. Those were all choices. I was trapped. I didn't know how to get out of it. Trapped? You weren't trapped. You built this prison yourself, brick by brick, lie by lie. A waitress approached, but I waved her away. This wasn't a meal. This was an execution. I love you, Daniel said desperately. I've always loved you. Jenny was a mistake that got out of control. Don't. My voice turned to ice. Don't you dare reduce those children to a mistake. Don't you dare blame this on circumstances. You chose this. Every single day, you chose this. What do you want me to say? His voice broke. What do you want me to do? I want you to understand what you've destroyed. I pulled out a folder from my bag. Inside were copies of everything. The messages, the bank statements, the photos, the timeline I'd created documenting 6 years of lies. I slid it across the table. This is what you've done. Every lie, every theft, every betrayal. It's all documented. He opened the folder with shaking hands. His face went pale as he flipped through the pages. How did I find all this? You left your phone at home, Daniel, and you were never as careful as you thought you were. Claudia, please. If this gets out, it'll destroy everything. My business, my reputation. Your reputation. I leaned forward. You're worried about your reputation. What about my life? What about the years I gave you? The money I earned that you stole? The children I couldn't have while you were having them with someone else? I never wanted to hurt you. He whispered again. But you did. Over and over and over. And now you're going to pay for it. What are you going to do? I smiled. It wasn't a kind smile. I've already done it. I've filed for divorce. My lawyer has all of this documentation. We're pressing charges for fraud and theft. The district attorney is interested in your embezzlement from your company. The color drained from his face completely. You went to the DA. Did you really think you could steal $200,000 from your own business and no one would notice? I was going to pay it back. I just needed time. You're out of time, Daniel. The audit is happening next week. Marcus will know everything. Your clients will know everything. Everyone will know who you really are. He was shaking now. Please, please, Claudia. I'll do anything. I'll give you everything in the divorce, the house, the savings, all of it. Just please don't destroy me. You destroyed yourself. What about Jenny? What about the kids? They'll lose everything too. You'd do that to innocent children? And there it was, his final manipulation, using his other children as shields. Those children are not my responsibility, I said coldly. They're yours. You should have thought about them before you built this house of lies. So you're just going to let them suffer? To make me pay? No, Daniel. They're going to suffer because of the choices you made. Not me. You. I stood up. My lawyer will be in touch. Don't contact me again. Don't come to the house. Don't call. Don't text. Don't email. Any communication goes through attorneys now. Claudia, wait. We're done. I walked out of the restaurant without looking back. My hands were shaking as I got into my car. But underneath the trembling was something else. Something strong and cold and absolutely certain. This was just the beginning. Over the next week, my plan unfolded like clockwork. Patricia filed the divorce papers. The legal documents were brutal, laying out every instance of fraud and deception in clinical detail. Tom, the private investigator, delivered his full report to Daniel's company. Marcus called me, devastated. He'd had no idea. He wanted to press charges. Please do, I told him. The audit confirmed everything. Daniel had been systematically stealing from the company for years. Marcus fired him immediately and contacted law enforcement. I also did something that surprised even Rachel. I contacted Jennifer. I sent her a letter. A long, detailed letter explaining everything. I included copies of our marriage certificate, photos of Daniel and me together, recent photos, copies of our joint bank statements, showing the money he'd stolen. I wanted her to know the truth. She called me 3 days later. I almost didn't answer. Is this Claudia? Her voice was shaking. Yes. I don't even know what to say. You don't have to say anything. He told me you were divorced. He showed me papers. He said it was finalized years ago. Those papers were fake. She started crying. I have 3 children with him. I built my entire life around him. And it was all a lie. I know the feeling. I'm so sorry. I had no idea. If I'd known, I believe you. And surprisingly, I did. Her pain sounded genuine. What happens now? She asked. Now he faces consequences. Legal consequences. Financial consequences. All of it. My kids. They're going to lose their father. They lost the father they thought they had the day Daniel chose to build his life on lies. What happens next is up to the courts. We talked for an hour. She told me her side of the story. How charming Daniel had been. How he'd pursued her. How he'd promised her everything. How he'd lied to her just as thoroughly as he'd lied to me. By the end of the call, something unexpected had happened. We'd formed a strange alliance. 2 women who'd been played by the same man. 2 women who desser continue ved better. 2 women who were going to make sure Daniel never did this to anyone else again. I'm pressing charges too, Jennifer said before we hung up. For fraud. He stole from me. He lied about who he was. He falsified legal documents. Good. Claudia, thank you for telling me the truth. You deserve to know. After the call ended, I sat in silence for a long time. I felt something I hadn't expected to feel. Relief, not happiness, not satisfaction, just relief that the truth was finally out in the open, that the lies were exposed, that the carefully constructed fantasy Daniel had built was crumbling. But I wasn't done yet. Daniel's parents lived in Florida. They were good people. They'd always been kind to me. They'd welcomed me as a daughter. They deserved to know what their son had done. I called his mother Susan. "Claudia, how lovely to hear from you. How are you, dear?" "Susan, I need to tell you something about Daniel." The conversation was one of the hardest things I've ever done. I heard her heart break over the phone as I explained everything. She cried. She apologized for her son. She said she'd raised him better than this. "I know you did," I told her gently. "This isn't your fault. Those poor children, all of them, what he's put them through. He'll face consequences now." "Good." Her voice hardened. "He should. I love my son, but what he's done is unforgivable." Daniel's father got on the phone. "Claudia, we're so sorry. We had no idea. If there's anything we can do, just don't let him hide behind you. Don't let him play the victim." "We won't. You have our word." I also contacted Daniel's siblings. His younger brother, Tom, who'd been his best man at our wedding. His sister, Lisa, who'd helped me plan our anniversary parties. They were all devastated. They'd all been kept in the dark. One by one, Daniel's support system collapsed. The people he'd counted on to take his side instead turned away in disgust. His carefully managed image was destroyed. At work, I told my closest colleagues what had happened. Not all the details, but enough. They were horrified and supportive. "Take whatever time you need," my supervisor said. "Your job will be here when you're ready." But I didn't want time off. I needed to work. I needed the routine, the purpose, the distraction. I threw myself into my nursing duties with renewed focus. Helping patients became my therapy. Every life I touched, every person I helped heal, reminded me that I still had value, that I was still capable of good things, that Daniel's betrayal didn't define me. Rachel was my rock through everything. She came over every evening. She brought food when I forgot to eat. She sat with me when the pain became too much. She held my hand through the worst moments. "You're the strongest person I know," she told me one night. "I don't feel strong. I feel broken. Broken things can be rebuilt, stronger than before." I wanted to believe her. The legal proceedings moved forward. Daniel hired a lawyer, but there wasn't much his attorney could do. The evidence was overwhelming. The paper trail was clear. Patricia was ruthless in negotiations. "He's offering you the house and 60% of the assets," she told me during one meeting. "Not good enough. Claudia, that's a generous offer. He stole from me for 6 years. He committed fraud. He destroyed my life. I want everything." Patricia smiled. It was predatory. "Then that's what we'll fight for." Daniel's business collapsed. Once the embezzlement became public, clients fled. The company declared bankruptcy within a month. Marcus lost everything he'd built. I felt bad for Marcus. He'd been Daniel's victim too, but I couldn't fix everyone's problems. I had to focus on my own survival. Daniel's criminal charges moved forward. The district attorney was pursuing fraud, theft, and falsification of documents. Jennifer's testimony was damning. My testimony was even worse. His lawyer tried to negotiate a plea deal, but the DA wasn't interested. "Your husband's crimes are extensive and calculated," the prosecutor told me. "He deserves to face full consequences." I agreed. Through it all, Daniel kept trying to reach me. He sent letters through his lawyer, begging for mercy. He claimed he was having a mental breakdown, that he was getting therapy, that he finally understood the magnitude of what he'd done. Too little, too late. I burned every letter without reading past the first paragraph. 3 months after I discovered the truth, Daniel was indicted on multiple felony charges. His arraignment was scheduled for the following month. I planned to be there. I planned to look him in the eyes as the charges were read. I planned to watch him face justice. But something happened before the arraignment that changed everything. Daniel's lawyer called Patricia in a panic. "We need to meet. Urgently. Daniel has information that Claudia needs to know." "What kind of information?" Patricia asked. "It's about her fertility struggles. He says there's something she doesn't know, something that will change everything." My blood ran cold. "What is he talking about?" I asked Patricia. "I don't know, but I think we need to find out." We agreed to meet. Patricia, me, Daniel, and his lawyer. Neutral ground. A conference room at Patricia's law firm. I walked in prepared for another manipulation. Another lie. Another attempt by Daniel to shift blame or gain sympathy. But when I saw his face, I knew this was different. He looked devastated, not for himself, for me. "What is this about?" Patricia demanded. Daniel's lawyer spoke first. "My client has information about medical procedures that were performed without Claudia's knowledge or consent." My heart stopped. "What?" Daniel couldn't meet my eyes. "The fertility treatments, the ones that kept failing. What about them? They were never going to work." His voice was barely a whisper. "What are you talking about?" "I sabotaged them. All of them." The room spun. I gripped the edge of the table to stay upright. "What did you do?" "I switched your prenatal vitamins. I gave you ones that made it harder to conceive. And when you got the hormone injections for IVF, I made sure the dosages were wrong. I paid someone at the fertility clinic to alter them." I couldn't breathe. You deliberately prevented me from getting pregnant?" He was crying now. "I already had kids with Jenny. I didn't want more, but I couldn't tell you that without revealing everything. So you let me believe I was broken. You let me go through procedure after procedure, thinking my body was failing me. You let me blame myself. I'm so sorry. God, Claudia, I'm so sorry." Patricia was already taking notes. "This is medical fraud, assault, battery. We're adding these charges immediately." But I barely heard her. The revelation was too enormous, too cruel. All those years, I'd thought something was wrong with me. I'd cried over negative pregnancy tests. I'd endured painful procedures. I'd watched other women have babies while believing my body couldn't do what it was supposed to do. And it was all Daniel. He deliberately, methodically destroyed my chance at motherhood to protect his lies. "There's more," Daniel said quietly. "More?" I could barely form words. "The person at the clinic who helped me, the one who altered your medications." He finally looked at me. It was Dr. Chen. Dr. Chen, my fertility doctor, the woman I'd trusted with my deepest pain and my desperate hopes. She'd been in on it. The betrayal went even deeper than I'd imagined. I stood up. The chair crashed backward. "Claudia," Patricia started, but I was already walking out. I couldn't be in that room anymore. I couldn't breathe the same air as Daniel. I made it to the hallway before I collapsed against the wall, sliding down to the floor. Everything I'd believed about myself, about my body, about my worth, it had all been built on Daniel's lies. He hadn't just stolen my marriage. He'd stolen my faith in my own body, my chance at motherhood, my entire sense of self. Patricia came out a moment later. She knelt beside me. "We're going to destroy him," she said quietly. "Every single charge, every single crime. He's going away for a very long time. It doesn't matter. My voice was hollow. It won't give me back those years. It won't give me the children I could have had. No, but it will give you justice. I looked up at her. Will it? Will any of this actually heal me? She was quiet for a moment. I don't know, but it's a start. The new revelations about the fertility sabotage changed everything. The medical board launched an investigation into Dr. Chen. Her license was suspended pending review. Other patients came forward, questioning their own failed treatments. The media got wind of the story. It was too sensational to ignore. Local man sabotages. Wife's fertility while maintaining secret family made headlines across the state. Our private pain became public spectacle. Reporters called. I refused every interview. I wasn't going to turn my trauma into entertainment. But the public exposure did something unexpected. It brought other women forward. Women Daniel had been with. Women he'd lied to. Women who'd believed his stories about being divorced or single or trapped in a loveless marriage. There were 7 of them. 7 women, beyond Jennifer and me, who'd been caught in Daniel's web of lies at various points over the years. Some relationships had been brief. Others had lasted months. None of them had known about the others. We formed an unlikely group. 9 women, connected by one man's betrayal. We met at a coffee shop, all of us nervous and uncertain. What do you say to the other women your husband lied to? But something happened that afternoon. We bonded over shared pain. We validated each other's experiences. We realized that none of us had been foolish or naive. Daniel had been a professional liar, a manipulator of the highest order. He'd studied each of us, learned what we wanted to hear, and given it to us. He was a predator in a nice suit with a charming smile. He told me his wife had died of cancer, one woman said. He even showed me a fake obituary. He told me he was engaged, but having doubts, another shared. He said I made him realize his fiancée wasn't the one. Each story was a variation on the same theme. Daniel crafting whatever narrative would get him what he wanted. Jennifer was there too. She held her baby, Sophie, who was almost 2 now. The little girl had Daniel's eyes. I'm sorry, Jennifer said to the group. I know I was part of his lies longer than anyone. I feel like I should have known. We all should have known, I said. But he was good at this. This wasn't amateur deception. This was calculated, systematic manipulation. One of the other women, Maria, spoke up. What happens now? He's going to prison, right? If there's any justice, I replied. My therapist says I need closure, Maria continued. She says I need to confront him, tell him how he made me feel. Do you think that would help? Someone asked. I don't know, but I need to try. An idea formed in my mind. A terrible, beautiful idea. What if we all confronted him, together? The group went silent. You mean all of us? At once? Jennifer asked. Why not? He juggled all of us. He lied to all of us. Maybe he needs to face all of us. Patricia initially thought it was a bad idea. It could complicate the legal proceedings, she warned. I don't care. I need this. We all need this. Daniel's lawyer reluctantly agreed to a meeting. I think he hoped that showing remorse to all his victims might help in sentencing. He had no idea what he was agreeing to. We met in the same conference room where Daniel had confessed about the fertility sabotage. But this time, he walked in to find 9 women waiting for him. The look on his face was almost worth all the pain. Almost. He went pale. His eyes darted from face to face. recognizing each of us, probably calculating what we knew, what we'd told each other. "Sit down," Patricia commanded. He sat. His lawyer sat beside him, looking uncomfortable. "Each of these women has something to say to you," Patricia continued. "You're going to sit here and listen. You don't get to interrupt. You don't get to defend yourself. You just listen." Maria went first. "You told me I was special, that you'd never met anyone like me. You said your marriage was over, and you just needed time to make it official." Her voice shook. "I believed you. I let you into my life, into my bed, into my heart, and you were lying the entire time." Daniel opened his mouth. His lawyer touched his arm, stopping him. Another woman, Keisha, went next. "I was 22 when I met you, fresh out of college. You were sophisticated, successful, charming. You made me feel grown up, important." She laughed bitterly. "You were twice my age and married, and you let me believe we had a future." One by one they spoke, each woman sharing her story, her pain, her anger. Jennifer's turn came. She was crying before she even started. "I had your children. I built my life around you. I turned down job opportunities because you said you'd take care of us. I isolated myself from my family because you said we needed privacy." She wiped her eyes. "My kids ask where Daddy is. I don't know what to tell them. How do I explain that their father is a monster?" Daniel flinched at the word monster. Then it was my turn. I'd been sitting quietly, watching him squirm, watching him realize the magnitude of what he'd done. I stood up, walked around the table, stood directly in front of him. "Look at me," I said. He reluctantly met my eyes. "I gave you everything. My youth, my money, my trust, my love. I worked myself to exhaustion to support your dreams. I sacrificed my own goals for our future." My voice was steady, cold, and you repaid me by sabotaging my body, by stealing my chance at motherhood, by making me believe I was broken when the only broken thing was you. A tear rolled down his cheek. "Don't you dare cry," I hissed. "You don't get to play victim. Not now. Not ever." "Claudia, I never meant shut up. I don't care what you meant. I care what you did. And what you did was destroy me. You destroyed all of us." I leaned closer. "You're going to prison. You're going to lose everything. Your money, your reputation, your freedom. And you're going to spend every day knowing that you did this to yourself. That every lie, every betrayal, every cruel choice led you here." I straightened up. "And we're going to rebuild. All of us. We're going to take the pieces of ourselves that you shattered and make something beautiful. We're going to heal. We're going to thrive. And you'll just be a cautionary tale we tell when someone asks about our scars." The room was silent. Daniel was openly crying now, but no one felt sorry for him. "Are we done here?" Patricia asked. "Yes," I said. "We're done with him." We all stood. As a group, we walked toward the door. "Claudia, wait, please." Daniel's voice was desperate. I paused, looked back at him one last time. "Goodbye, Daniel. I hope prison gives you time to think about who you really are, and I hope that knowledge destroys you the way you destroyed us." Then we left. 9 women, walking us out together, stronger as a group than we'd been alone. Outside the building, we stood in a circle. "Thank you," Maria said. "I didn't know I needed that until it happened." "Me too," Keisha agreed. Jennifer looked at me. "What you said in there, about rebuilding, do you really think we can?" "I have to believe we can," I replied, "because the alternative is letting him win, and I refuse to give him that." We exchanged contact information. We promised to stay in touch, to support each other through the legal proceedings, to help each other heal. Then we went our separate ways. But something had shifted. Facing Daniel together, making him confront what he'd done, hearing each other's stories. It had been cathartic in a way I hadn't expected. The pain was still there, the anger, the grief. But now there was something else too. Solidarity, strength, hope. Daniel's arraignment was 2 weeks later. I attended. So did Jennifer. So did 3 of the other women. We sat in the courtroom as the charges were read. Fraud, theft, medical battery, falsification of documents. The list went on and on. Daniel pleaded not guilty. His lawyer argued that while his behavior was reprehensible, some of the charges didn't meet the legal threshold for criminal prosecution. The judge wasn't sympathetic. Mr. Carter, you systematically deceived multiple women. You stole from your business partner. You conspired with a medical professional to commit fraud and cause harm. These are serious crimes that strike at the heart of trust in both personal and professional relationships. Bail was set at $250,000. Daniel couldn't make bail. His assets were frozen. His business was bankrupt. His parents refused to help. He was remanded to custody pending trial. As they led him away in handcuffs, he looked back at me one last time. I felt nothing. No satisfaction. No pity. No anger. Just emptiness where he used to be. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed us. Cameras flashed. Microphones were shoved in our faces. How do you feel seeing your husband arrested? Do you think justice is being served? What message do you have for other women in similar situations? I stopped, looked directly into the camera. If someone you love is lying to you, trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, it probably is. And if you discover you've been betrayed, know that it's not your fault. The person who lied is responsible for their choices, not you. I paused. And to anyone thinking about living a double life, building relationships on lies, deceiving the people who trust you, understand that the truth always comes out. Always. And when it does, you'll lose everything. Then I walked away, leaving the reporters behind. 3 years after sentencing, Daniel's lawyer called. My client is requesting a meeting. He says there's information about your fertility treatments he didn't share. My stomach dropped. What information? He'll only tell you directly. I didn't want to see him, but I needed to know. The prison was bleak. Gray walls, harsh lighting, the smell of desperation. Daniel looked old, gray hair, deep lines. He'd gained weight. We sat across from each other, plexiglass between us, phones for communication. Thank you for coming, he said. I didn't respond. The fertility sabotage was worse than I testified. We didn't just alter your treatments. We falsified your entire medical file. Made it look like you had conditions you didn't have. Endometriosis, premature ovarian failure. My blood went cold. Why? So you'd never question why we couldn't have children. So you'd keep trying and failing and never suspect. You made me believe I was broken. Yes, I was shaking. Why tell me now? Because I found out you adopted Maya. My mother told me. She says you're a wonderful mother. Your mother had no right. I know, but it made me realize you would have been an amazing mother to our biological children if I hadn't sabotaged everything. Tears ran down my face. rage and grief. You stole my 20s and early 30s, the prime years. And now I'm 39. I know, and I can never make it right. Then why tell me? Because you need the truth, the whole truth. And because, he paused. The files Dr. Chen falsified, I kept copies, as insurance. They're in a safety deposit box, box 347 at First National Bank. The key is with my mother. Why give me this? His eyes filled with tears. Because maybe somewhere deep down, there's still a tiny piece of the man you married, and maybe that piece wants to do one decent thing. I don't need your pride or your pity. I hope you find love again, real love, with someone who deserves you. I have love. I have Maya. I have friends. I don't need romantic love to be complete. But if it comes, I'll consider it. But I'm not searching. I'm already whole. He smiled sadly. You are. You really are. Goodbye, Daniel. I hung up, walked out without looking back. In the parking lot, I cried, not for Daniel, not for what could have been, for the woman I used to be, the one who'd believed so deeply in love. She was gone, and I was ready to let her go. I retrieved the files, sued Dr. Chen and the fertility clinic. The case made national news again. This time, I spoke publicly. I wanted other women to know medical abuse was real. The case settled. Significant financial compensation, but more importantly, policy changes at clinics across the state. Real change. I donated half the settlement to organizations supporting women leaving abusive relationships. The other half went into Maya's education fund. 5 years after discovering Daniel's betrayal, I stood before a room full of women at a conference on trauma recovery. My name is Claudia Torres. 5.5 years ago, I discovered everything I believed about my life was a lie. I told my story, not for sympathy, but to illustrate that survival is possible. People ask if I've forgiven Daniel. The truth is, I haven't, and I'm not sure I ever will. I paused. But forgiveness isn't about them. It's about releasing yourself from the prison of bitterness. I haven't forgiven Daniel, but I've forgiven myself for not seeing it. And that's been enough. I shared my lessons. The opposite of being betrayed isn't being suspicious. It's choosing carefully who you trust, while remaining open. The opposite of being hurt isn't building walls. It's setting boundaries that protect you while allowing love in. The opposite of being destroyed isn't being unbreakable. It's breaking and choosing to put yourself back together into something new. The audience listened. Many were crying. I'm not going to tell you what happened was a blessing. It wasn't. It was terrible, traumatic. But I will tell you this. I like who I've become on the other side. I'm stronger, not because I'm unbreakable, but because I've been broken and survived. I'm wiser, not because I'm cynical, but because I've learned healthy boundaries. I'm more compassionate, because I understand suffering. I looked at the audience. If you've been betrayed, hear this. It wasn't your fault. You're not broken. You loved honestly. That's beautiful. Don't let someone else's betrayal steal that from you. The speech ended with a standing ovation. Afterward, women approached me. Thank you for telling the truth. Thank you for showing us survival is possible. One older woman gripped my hand. My husband had a secret family for 20 years. I found out at his funeral. That was 15 years ago. I've never told anyone. I was too ashamed. You have nothing to be ashamed of. After hearing you, I think I'm ready to start healing. Finally. It's never too late. She hugged me and walked away, shoulders straighter. This was why I shared my story. Mia was 8 now, thriving in school, happy, secure. She knew age-appropriate parts of my story. She knew I'd been married before, and it had ended because of lies. "Is that why you understand when I have bad dreams?" she asked one night. "Yes, baby. I've had bad dreams too. I know what it's like to be scared. But you're so brave. Brave people get scared too. Being brave means you keep going even when you're scared." She thought about that. "Then I want to be brave like you. You already are." I'd been seeing someone for over a year. Michael, a physical therapist at the hospital. He was kind, patient. He knew my history and respected my need to move slowly. "I love you," he told me one evening. "I don't need you to say it back yet. I just want you to know." My heart raced. The words terrified me. "I'm scared." "I know. That's okay. What if I can't do this? What if I'm too damaged?" He took my hands gently. "Claudia, you're not damaged. You're healed. There's a difference. I have scars. So do I. Everyone does. That's what makes us human. Your scars don't make you less lovable. They make you real." I started crying, relieved tears. "I think I love you too. I'm just terrified to say it." "Then don't. Not until you're ready. I'll be here when you are." That patience, that understanding. This was what real love looked like. Not games, not lies, just honest communication and respect. 7 years after the discovery, I received another letter from prison. "Claudia, I'm dying. Pancreatic cancer, stage 4, 6 months, maybe less. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm writing to tell you something. You were the best thing that ever happened to me, and I destroyed it because I was too cowardly to be the man you deserved. I hope you're happy. I hope you found everything you deserve. You're remarkable. You always were. I'm sorry I couldn't see it clearly enough to honor it. Live well, love fully, be happy. Daniel." I read it 3 times, filed it away, walked away. His dying didn't change anything. It was just another ending to a chapter already over. I told Michael that evening. "How do you feel?" "Sad. Not for him specifically. Just sad that someone can live a whole life, and the only thing they leave behind is wreckage." "Do you want to see him before he dies?" "No. I said everything I needed to say years ago." "Okay." No pressure, no judgment, just acceptance. Daniel died 4 months later. His mother called. He asked to be cremated. No funeral. "I'm sorry for your loss, Susan. He left something for you. Money from his prison job. For Maya's education." I accepted it. Daniel owed Maya as much as he owed me. After I hung up, I sat quietly. Daniel was dead. The man who'd betrayed me was gone. I waited for relief, for closure. Instead, I just felt neutral. His death didn't heal me. I'd already done that myself. Maya came home and showed me a test she'd aced. Michael came for dinner. Rachel called to check in. Life continued. Beautiful, messy, real. Daniel's death was a footnote, not a climax, because he wasn't the main character anymore. I was. 10 years after discovering the betrayal, I stood in my living room preparing for a celebration. Mia was 13, bright, confident. She'd been accepted into a prestigious writing program. She'd written an essay about resilience, about chosen families, about love. She'd won first place. Friends arrived. Rachel, Jennifer and her kids, Michael and his daughter, women from my support group, colleagues from the hospital. We gathered in my home. Not the house I'd shared with Daniel, not the condo where I first healed, but my forever home. As I looked around, I realized something. This was my real family, not connected by blood or marriage, connected by choice, by love, by mutual support. Rachel raised her glass. To Maya, for her achievement, but also to Claudia, for showing us what it means to rise from the ashes. To Claudia, everyone echoed. I felt my eyes water, happy tears. Thank you, all of you, for walking this journey with me, for reminding me that family isn't just who you're born to. It's who shows up, who stays, who loves you through the worst and celebrates in the best. Maya hugged me. You're going to make me cry. Everyone laughed. The evening was perfect. Food and laughter. Maya glowing. Michael's hand finding mine. Rachel sharing old stories. Sophie talking about college. This was what I'd fought for. Connection. Authenticity. Love that was honest and real. Later, Michael and I sat on the back porch. You've built something amazing, he said. We've built something amazing. You're part of this now. He squeezed my hand. I was thinking, maybe it's time we made things official. Not marriage, necessarily, but maybe living together? My heart raced. Old fear rose up. But then I looked at him, at his kind eyes, his patient smile, his steady presence over 3 years. This wasn't Daniel. This was Michael, a man who'd shown consistent trustworthiness. I'm scared. I know, and that's okay. We can go as slow as you need. What if I can't do it? Claudia, you're not broken. You're one of the strongest, most whole people I know. What happened transformed you into someone who knows her worth, someone I'm honored to love. I kissed him, long and deep. Ask me again in 6 months. About moving in. Yes. Give me 6 months to work through the fear. Then ask again. I can do that. And he would, because that's who he was. I still went to therapy. Probably always would. You've come so far, Dr. Reeves said. I still have bad days. Everyone does. That doesn't negate your progress. Sometimes I think about everything Daniel took. Like what? My 20s, my early 30s, the chance at biological children, the innocence I had. Those are real losses. You're allowed to grieve them. But I also have so much. Maya, my work, Michael, my chosen family. Both things can be true. You can grieve what was stolen while celebrating what you've built. She was right. The trauma would always be part of my story. But not the only part. Not even the most important part. The most important part was what came after. How I chose to rebuild. I'd become an advocate. I spoke at conferences, published articles, consulted with legislators on laws protecting victims. I'd turned pain into purpose. But more than that, I'd learned to live again, to laugh, to trust carefully but genuinely, to love Maya fiercely and Michael bravely. I'd learned that healing doesn't mean forgetting. It means integrating the painful parts into the larger narrative of who you are. You can't control what others do, only how you respond. And I'd chosen to respond with resilience, with grace, with determination to thrive. One afternoon, cleaning out files, I found a photo from my wedding day. Daniel and me, young and smiling. I looked at that young woman in white. So hopeful, so unprepared. I wanted to tell her to run, to see the warnings, but I couldn't. She had to walk that path, had to experience that pain, because on the other side was me, the woman I'd become. And I liked who I was now. I wouldn't choose to go through it again. The betrayal had been excruciating, but I also wouldn't trade who I'd become. Stronger, wiser, more compassionate, more authentic. I knew myself now in a way I never had before. I put the photo in storage. That chapter was over. This chapter, the one where I was thriving, this was what mattered now. If you're reading this, and you've been betrayed, know this. It's not your fault. You didn't cause it. You didn't deserve it. You couldn't have prevented it. The person who betrayed you made their choices. Those choices are on them, not you. You are not broken. You are not too trusting. You are not foolish. You loved honestly. That's beautiful. Yes, you'll need to heal. Yes, it will take time. Yes, there will be days you feel like drowning. But you will survive this. You will rebuild. You will learn to trust again, carefully and wisely. You will love again, if you choose to. And you will become someone stronger. Someone who knows their worth. Someone who refuses to settle. The betrayal is a chapter in your story. An important chapter. A painful chapter. But it's not the whole book. You are the author now. Write a good one. I'm Claudia Torres. I'm a mother, a nurse practitioner, an advocate, a survivor, a thriver. I'm someone who was betrayed in the worst way and chose to rise anyway. I'm someone who turned pain into purpose and trauma into transformation. I'm someone who learned you can be broken and heal, hurt and hope, betrayed and still believe in love. I'm someone who knows happy endings aren't about perfection. They're about choosing to build something beautiful from shattered pieces. And if I can do it, so can you. Your story isn't over. It's just beginning.